Good morning. Denise Dryden here on Bainbridge Island. It's a fabulous summer day, and as you know, I get to sit out here on the porch and enjoy it while I'm talking to you. Today I want to talk about change, and the topic or the title for today is called Expect Change, right? Not just about change, but how to get used to expecting change, knowing change, loving change, working with change. Change has such a fantastic energy because it's what's represented in nature around us. Everything is always changing, whether it's the colors of the seasons themselves, the temperatures each day, how plants grow. They sort of bubble up and then they bloom and they show you their beautiful selves in the summer, and then they start to come back and die, and then they come back up again. It's sort of like the Fibonacci, which is, that things are always moving and opening, and change is a natural part of our life. It also pertains to how people come and go in our lives, and how our children grow. Our children grow up, and they go from little babies to toddlers to elementary to high school. We make it through the teen years, and then they're independent beings, and they're out on their own. So the biggest question is, how comfortable are you with change? Does it terrify you, or do you thrive with it? What is your comfort zone with change? Since change is part of the world, and there is so much rumbling around right now, I think to me it feels like there's a little bit of pressure, that there's political stuff, there's socioeconomic stuff, there's news information and hacking and just sort of being inundated all the time with attempts to try to get in front of us, to influence, to try to make us think a certain way. And it seems like it's been on the rise. At least that's my perception. And the way that I would liken it for me is, it feels like there's a hose that has like you bent it or you've stopped it up, and it's just a lot of pressure. And so that tells me that something big is coming. Something big is coming to say, how do we release the pressure? How do we start working with this change that's rumbling down in our American culture, in the world around us? So let's pull apart what change really actually is. It's to make or become different. That's all. To take or use another instead. And so change could be change your mind, change your direction, change your opinion, change the course of your life. So to put this in context, we've spent the last 2,000 years building structure, infrastructure, systems, institutions. It's been part of the Piscean Age, and it started with the Roman Empire. Because I'm a historian, I'm going to put this in here, right? And the Romans were amazing at building infrastructures like water, housing, labor, harnessing things, going in and imposing themselves onto new cultures, and then building their own modern infrastructures, and not valuing the ones that were there. So it means that the Roman influence has built these foundation pieces that we have continued to harness and grow and develop and work within for the last 2,000 years. Well, with the end of the Piscean Age and the beginning of this Aquarian Age, Aquarians are all about fluidity and flow. I mean, structure doesn't have a lot of value. It doesn't mean that structure is out the door. It means that we have to become more flexible. So we're dismantling some of the structures that don't work, that no longer serve us. We're shifting rapidly, and we're starting to feel the pressure of that rapid shift. So values like responsiveness, receptivity, adaptability, flexibility are rising. And what we're finding is those are values that either you have, or it's a time to learn them. How do you become responsive and let things go through you? How do you become receptive and go, I can take that and I can work with it? How do you become more flow? So you're going to see this in your work. You're going to see this in your relationships. You're going to see this in your parenting. You're even going to see this in your health. This is a time for a deep change. So how are you with change? How flexible, adaptable, curious are you? So I'm going to connect this concept of change to the work I do with highly sensitive teens and kids. because I've been talking about this on the videos for the last 2 years on and off. And Dr. Elaine Aron, wrote a book in 1997 called The Highly Sensitive Person. She runs clinical statistical data that 15 to 20% of the entire population of the world, no gender bias, no or direction, no regional, geographical, nothing, everything, 15 to 20%. Well, she just raised her percentages in her new study to 15 to 35, which is 1 out of every 4 or 1 out of every 3. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. So I work with adults who are parenting in the parenting phase of their life, right? I work with adults who are in the parenting phase of their life, and a lot of the work I do right now is with adults who have kids in therapeutic programs. So I get an opportunity to read psychoeducational testing, which is like 35 pages of analysis on these kids, whether it's their IQ, their behavior, how they respond to things. What I notice straight across the board is when I'm looking at a testing that starts to tell me that I'm looking at some sensitivity issues, I'm seeing curiosity, I'm seeing observance, hyperfocus, the ability to really shut things down and focus on something that matters to them, and the inattentive focus when something doesn't matter at all. There's some intrinsic talents, whether it's in math, or it's in music, or it's in history, writing, art. There also can be extremely athletic, so either really fluid in their body or not so much. They don't have executive functioning consistency. They may have some pieces of executive functioning that work, but they're really not interested in supporting the structure of traditional education, of traditional life. I'm also seeing IQ scattering, which means that they're not clustering around average, high average in a 10-point spread. What they're doing is they're having really, really high verbal comprehension and low processing, or really high visual spatial and low processing or memory. It's so interesting. They're just sort of different than I've seen before. They also have impulsiveness, reactivity, or they isolate and withdraw. What this tells me is that they are change agents in a world that doesn't know how to change at the pace that they need it to. So I'm going to say that again. I'm going to say that highly sensitive people are change agents. Whether they do it in an extroverted way or an introverted way, they are bringing curiosity, adaptability, observant skills into our world. It's time for us to pay attention and listen to them, right? So if I'm working with adults who are in the phase of parenting, you know your parents' history, you know your experiences, and you can sort of see, what am I noticing in my kids? What am I noticing in my coworkers? What is starting to get my attention? Life is changing in front of me, and you're being pushed, whether you want to or not, whether it's astrological. We could get into all of the ancient wisdoms as to what's going on to sort of push us forward, but this push is a lot of pressure to make big changes. So changes can be how you build your day, how you pay attention and respond or react, how you adjust or adapt when needing to change. Are you stuck? Do you get angry? Do you get overwhelmed? Are you stagnant? And when you're stagnant, your body becomes inflamed, autoimmune, weight gain, sore muscles, stagnant, think just sort of water that never leaves a pond and just gets thicker and gooier and ickier as time goes by. How do we move out of stagnation and go into embracing change? So when we're asked to change, it usually shows up first as a tap, 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 tap. And we can ignore it, or we can immediately kind of go, what was that? Something's trying to get my attention. So when we ignore it, it gets bigger, right? We know that, whether it's a toddler or a teenager or a work project or an issue that's going on in a relationship, tap, tap, tap. It means that it needs your attention. So it will tell you when the world around you or your world is shifting into a different place and you are stuck or you're not in coherence with the direction that the energy's moving. So think about it this way. It's sort of like being on a river. And some of us are very comfortable saying, I just want to sit on this rock, or I just want to move some rocks around and make a little alcove right here for myself to be very comfortable and watch all the river go by. Well, that doesn't necessarily work, because rivers go up and they go down and they change all the time. So what's happening is that the river, or life, is letting you know that you're out of dissonance, or you're in dissonance, out of coherence. That dissonance is present in your life. So you're seeing static, sort of irritation coming into your body, pain, all sorts of things that are saying, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. So what I'm here to do today is say to move around and embrace change. It means that we have to build that muscle, right? We have to build the muscle of change. We have to start practicing change in the small ways first, if it's really hard for you, or in bigger ways, if it's very difficult. For those of you who know me, I love change. I have 16 driver's licenses. I live in states. I love change. I'm going to be your change agent expert if you really want to know about that. What I know is that when we start to make changes, we start small. And we try new things, and we keep introducing them. Whether it's order a different drink in the morning if you go to a coffee place. Take a new route to work. Take a new route to school. Meander. Notice what you notice. Find an ethnic food that you've never had before, or a culture that you're curious about, and go find out where cultures live, what they eat, what you can learn to do. Where do you find the spices? Get curious to do something different. Go in a different direction. So the second thing I want to say is that when we practice going in a different direction, it's kind of like sometimes we just go, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go do this, and then I'm going to do this and do this. So we sort of have this linear comfort zone. What happens when we take one little tiny direction doesn't matter very much. The trajectory is so different than the plodding forward. So this little tiny shift, I'm going to try something new today. I'm going to try a different style of clothing. I'm going to try something really different with my hair, and I'm going to keep shifting through change. I'm going to keep introducing my body and my system to change. So that small step takes us in a much bigger direction. And then play with change. And play with change in your conversations with your kids, with your relationships, with your coworkers. So what would it look like if, and you play with money, you play with time, you play with love, you play with your kids and free time, your kids in education, yourself and health. What would it look like if I tried this? Or if I tried that? And be sure to keep it on the positive side, because it doesn't mean that when I'm saying try change, you go, oh, it's going to be so bad. It's going to go over here. What we want to do is go, what if there's something new here? Oh, that feels kind of good. What if I try this? Well, that wasn't so bad. So we start to move this muscle, and we start to train ourselves. And my suggestion is to keep moving that muscle a lot, because change is coming. Change is inevitable. Change is going to impact you. So are you ready? Are you flexible? Are you curious? Are you noticing and adapting? So change yourself. Change your world. Change your world by adding energy, curiosity, and focus. So there's a list of words here that I absolutely love when it comes to change. Adjust, learn, shift, convert, advance, innovate, and transform. Albert Einstein said energy can neither be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another. So what I want to encourage you today is start transforming everything you know in your world from one form to another, and then transform it back. And then go over here, and then go over here, but get used to change. Start to embrace it on a much higher level than you have before. If you want some assistance with this, you can always give me a call. You can find me on DeniseDrydenCoaching.com, and have a fabulous day. And have a fabulous Sunday, have a fabulous week ahead, and a fabulous summer week. Take care. Bye-bye.